The Feast of Christ the King is it's interesting in many ways, but it's not quite as old as you might think it is, although it perhaps was celebrated by the Christian community, I'm sure, for thousands of years. It was really only officially enacted on the church calendar in 1925, about 100 years ago, by Pope Pius XI. And he decided that the church needed to officially put on the calendar, as Father said, the solemnity of the Feast of Christ the King. One of the first things that you might think is, you said about 100 years later, when you look back in history, you young people, around 1925, pretty turbulent years they were. Perhaps all years for human beings are, but they were particularly turbulent. Dictatorships had been the norm in Europe, and not long after that and just before that, so communism and fascism and Nazism had raised their ugly heads and had consumed large numbers of people. And so I think the Pope, in his wisdom, decided that we need to tell people there is another king. Stalin and Hitler and Mussolini are not kings. They're not. And so I think the Pope, that was partly what he had in mind. You know the rest of that story. We're about 100 years down the road now, and some people in this room might not know who Mussolini is. Young people. He's gone. I don't know. Is there everybody here know who Mussolini is? You don't have to answer. You do? Excellent. That means you know your history, because there are a lot of people don't. Even Stalin might not know who he is, or Mao Zedong. People don't know who that is. These great despots of history have no idea who the guy is. But most of us, please God, know Jesus Christ. At least we know who he is, or what he proclaimed. Because 100 years later, we're here right now, and we're proclaiming with our family and friends as a community the lordship of Jesus Christ over us all. That's what we're doing. That's what we're celebrating this weekend. Quickly, though, I must say to you, I hope you were listening to the gospel. I'm sure you were. It's a strange gospel, is it not? To proclaim a king? Jesus is on the cross, friends. This cross. He's in agony. He's being sneered at, it says. A funny word, sneered. Who sneers at people? I don't know. I guess, maybe I have. My wife would say you sneer a lot. I don't know. Maybe she would. And at other parts, they said they jeered at him, which making mocking remarks, cutting, snide remarks about him. And apparently the bulk of the people were kind of with them. That's a fact. They jeered at him. And they took pleasure, apparently, in his demise. And that's the gospel today on the feast of Christ the King. One thief recognizes him. Now, we don't know that there weren't others that recognized him. There were. But apparently the powers that be, the kings of that age, did not recognize him. And so it's strange. But you know, it is at that moment, it seems to me, that Christ actually exercises and rises to the zenith of his power. It is in his great sacrifice that he shows us that he is the King, the Lord of the universe. How can that be? How could that be? Young people here. You know the words of Christ? He kind of always says this kind of stuff too through his life. For example, he says, the last will be first. Really? Who believes that? I mean, the last are last. If you go to Lambeau Field and you're last, you're last. You're not first, you're last. So you should get there earlier. But in Jesus' world, he says, give your tickets to somebody else. Let them go ahead of you. Like that's going to happen, but anyway. That's Jesus. That's the Jesus that we proclaim. The Jesus on the cross. The Jesus that exercises this great strength. And it took all kinds of strength to do this. For Jesus did something that nobody else could do. He forgives a man's life of sin on the cross. He says, today you will be with me in paradise. Oh, that we would hear those words. Today, Deacon. Today, my dear friends, you will experience paradise. What a wonderful thing. Can you imagine that thief? How lovely that must have been for him. Today, my friend, you will be with me. Because I'm greater than all this. They just don't see it. And sometimes we don't see it. And further, he did not just do that for that particular thief. He did it for us. I know we hear that a lot. He did this for you, and I get kind of, well, okay, well, that's nice. No, don't say that. He did it for you, you and you and you and all of us. And Father and me and everybody here. He did it. He died for your salvation. He died that you might live. Imagine. And no one else could do that for us. He forgave the sins of all times, of all places, of all in the future. I always say this, and you young people, I want you to hear this again. Do not live your lives thinking that your sin is so great that it can't be forgiven. Do not let the devil get you down that path, for that is not true. For this Lord, this King, forgives all sins. All we have to do is ask him in the great sacrament of confession, and he forgives. Like he forgave that thief. And the guy really didn't hardly ask, and Jesus is ready to forgive him. Today you will be with me in paradise. What a beautiful thing. Here on Calvary and on this cross, Jesus Christ, in his great lordship over us, has restored the life of grace to humanity. Now those are just words, but they're marvelous words. You and I now are able to partake in the grace of God again. We're restored, we're renewed, we're revitalized as we sit and stand and kneel at the foot of the cross like Mary and his friends. That's all we have to do is accept it, want it, recognize him for who he is. Calvary then and the cross reminds us of weakness. But actually, it opened up again heaven for us, did it not? For the whole human race. The cross is not a symbol of weakness for Christ or for us, should it be. Perhaps our enemies could point to the cross and say, he died. Why would you do this? But for us, it's a sign of strength. It's a sign of glory. And the cross is not a lonely place. It is a great metropolis where billions of people have gathered to give glory to Christ, like we're doing right now. Through the ages, billions of people have gathered in front of the cross to honor Christ as King. It's not a lonely place. It's not that. The cross is a kind of hospital where spirit and souls are healed. Do you and I want to be healed? I do. So do you. That's why we come. That's why we've taken the body and blood of Christ. I want to be healed, Lord. I want to be part of your kingdom. I want to recognize you as Son of God and King of the universe. The cross is like a kind of a bridge which allows us to cross over to God. Without the cross, the bridge collapses, and we're kind of left alone. You know, often when I am able and speak to groups, I'll say, I feel so blessed, I hope you do too, to be a Catholic and to be a Christian and to be a lover of Christ. Why? Because Christianity and this cross is a great sign of hope. Without it, I'm not sure what people think. Are you? What do our brothers and sisters think that are not with us anymore? I don't know. Our job is to share this cross with them, this hope that we have, that death is not the end, nor does it destroy the bonds that we forge in life, as the prayer goes. It's like a bridge that we're crossing over to God. The cross, then, is the symbol of Christ as King of the universe. Make sure, soon, you all do this already, I know, make sure you have a crucifix in your home that is displayed prominently so that if I walk in, I see it. I think I have one. I'm going to have to look, but I know we have crosses, but I'm not sure how prominent it is. Maybe I'll have to look at that when I get home. Make sure of that. Make sure that you do that in your homes. And I walk in, I see a cross, and I know who you are. And I know that you proclaim Christ as King of the universe. We shouldn't be ashamed of any of that. We're not. We're proud of it. We're proud of who we are. And we're proud to follow Christ at the cross. I'd like to close with a prayer that was said for centuries, really. A prayer that proclaims Christ as King. And it's short and it goes as follows. Most sweet Jesus, Redeemer of the human race, look down upon us, we who humbly prostrate ourselves before you. We are yours, and yours we wish to be. But to be more surely united with you, behold, each one of us would like today to consecrate ourselves again to your cross, to your most sacred heart, and to you. Many indeed have never known you. Many too have rejected you. Have mercy on them all, most merciful Jesus, and draw them to your sacred heart. Be King, O Lord, not only of the faithful who have never forsaken you, but also of the prodigal children who have abandoned you. Grant that they may quickly return to their Father's house, lest they die of wretchedness and hunger. Be King of those who are deceived by erroneous opinion, or whom discord keeps aloof, and call them back to the harbor of truth and the unity of faith, so that soon there may be but one flock and one shepherd. And finally, grant, O Lord, to your church assurance of freedom and immunity from harm. Give tranquility of order to all nations. Make the earth resound from pole to pole with one cry. Praise to the divine heart that has wrought our salvation. To it be glory and honor forever and ever. Christ is King of the universe. Thanks be to God.